job right now. Like I know you're color commentating for PFL, Professional Fighters. It's Professional Fighters League or Professional
Professional Fighters League.
Professional Fighters League. You're color commentating for them. You're also in all 3 Expendables. I heard they're filming another one. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, we're supposed to start in the spring. I just read the script.
Okay, that's awesome.
My 11-year-old just saw the first one for the first time the other day, and he flipped.
That's
it was
awesome.
a cool dad son film to watch together.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a fun one for sure.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But you're also running charities. So like, how are you dividing up your time? How are you doing all this?
I mean, it's a juggling act, honestly. If you'd have told me 20 years ago I need an assistant, I would have laughed at you. But I don't know, honestly, what I would do without Valerie right now. She keeps me straight, keeps me from double booking, and all. I've made all those mistakes at one time or another. So she really helps me kind of navigate, and she's become my filter. Everybody comes at you from a different angle and wants something, ideally, and so I was one of those guys that said yes too much. Was generally a nice guy, and cool, yeah. And then the next thing you know, you're like, man, I haven't seen the light of day. And so developing that filter to kind of help me filter through the stuff that's important that I probably need to do, and a bunch of the stuff that I shouldn't or don't want to do.
Well, really quick, because I love the charity that you're supporting, but for some reason, if something falls through, I own a great club.
Okay.
15,000 square foot facility in Soho, downtown New York City.
I will know more tomorrow.
So if you need anything, get my contact info, and we can host you guys.
That would be great.
Just take my place and enjoy it and keep going.
There can be more chapters. I don't know where, we were at Henzel's, which is clear on the other side of town.
Just the offer there and something falls
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Let me know.
And if that doesn't work out, you can always go to Don's house. I open his doors to everybody if they want to go.
I appreciate you opening up his house.
My wife's a great coach. Really accommodating. She's watching right now like,
a good guy like that. But so you haven't slowed down. I know you in October. It was all over the news. You had a heart attack. You walked into the hospital.
It was a weird day. Tuesday I'm on a horse in a movie in a Western with Michael Jai White, and then Wednesday I'm in the cardiac ICU going, what the heck just happened?
What's going on?
But I a whole bunch of things have come out of this experience, and first of all, I'm feeling great. I feel I probably should have had my blood thinned out a long time ago. I've always had naturally, right up on the edge of normal, naturally hemoglobin hematocrit. Probably part of my Irish heritage and just part of being an athlete since I was 5 years old. And so they really would have liked me to be able to go to a blood bank on a regular basis and give blood, but I was stationed in Germany in the 80s. So I could have been exposed to mad cow disease. The blood banks they won't just take your blood and throw it away. It's a biohazard, so they won't deal with me. So I have to work through a hematologist, a blood doctor who can take that blood and then discard of it appropriately. And that requires me to be in town, and I've been so dang busy, I just haven't stayed up on it. And I've been healthy. I feel great. So sometimes until something breaks or happens, you don't really know that you need to pay more attention. So obviously I have to stay on top of this blood thing. I also had a car accident or altercation back in '94 in Oregon, and I fractured some ribs and punctured a lung, and I probably think I did some damage to that main artery. So there's some scar tissue and plaque there. All my other arteries are clear. I don't have heart disease.
Right.
I'm definitely not overweight. I'm training on a regular basis, and so the doctors are scratching their head like, man, we don't even know what to do with you. What are we going to do? Send you to a rehab center and curl 5-pound weights? And we don't know. So they, went in, put a stent in, sucked out the clot, and then they're like, I guess you're clear to train. Might want to take it easy and pay attention. But I'm already in tune with my body for the most part as a professional fighter for 14 years. So I'm glad I wasn't stubborn that day. I was working out at Unbreakable and finishing the workout and feeling like crap. And I'm like, man, I just trained the other day. I feel this is a similar workout. It just couldn't stop sweating, and I had this weird ache. And I popped my ribs before, so I thought I popped a rib somehow in the workout. I was like, dang, it's bitch getting old, ain't it? And I'm like on a foam roller trying to roll out my rib, and I'm having a heart attack. The foam roller's not going to help.
Not working.
And you walked out of the hospital.
I went home. I drove home.
Yeah.
I thought I just must have overdone it.
Yeah.
And I drank a recovery drink, and immediately had to go vomit.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew something's not right, because I'm not a puker.
Yeah.
I've never exerted myself so hard that I puked. Some guys do that, and that's fine, but I've never been that guy. And so I was like, something's up. I'm getting the flu or something, and I can't get this ache to go away. Right. And I laid down for about 5 minutes, and it just would not subside. So I was like, babe, let's walk over to the emergency room. Something's going on. And walked in there, of course, said, hey, I'm having a weird chest pain. I don't know what's going on. Like, okay. Took my name, sat me down for about 10 minutes, and then they walked me back and put me on the EKG machine. And then all hell broke loose. As soon as they hooked me up to the machine, they knew I was having a heart attack, and they, ripping the clothes off, got me in a gurney, rushed me upstairs. My girlfriend's eyes were, Mindy's eyes were this
Holy
big.
Shit, thank God. I mean, that could have happened at your house.
My widowmaker was completely occluded.
Oh, my God.
From the blood clot. And so they went in, sucked that out, put the stent in to keep the artery open, and then put me on a thinner, put me on a statin. And I feel great.
How's your training changed? I mean,
honestly,
you're at the highest level.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I don't do a lot of hard sparring anymore. I don't do a lot of hard grappling anymore. The discs in the neck are pretty worn out. So, I don't want to have a neck surgery. So, just really kind of trying to take care of the neck mostly. But I still do a lot of light sparring and still do some grappling and stuff. Mostly focused on the strength and conditioning side of things, doing a lot of the dynamic movements and stuff that I always did as a fighter anyway.
Right.
And we're kind of putting it into block training and doing a lot. And then finish every workout on the mat, doing some form of grappling or light sparring or something. And it's been fun. I enjoy it.
Smart.
What I'm sure a lot of people are always younger fighters coming to you for advice on what they could do better. I mean, do you work with a lot of younger talent?
We have a team at Extreme Couture. My son came up through the amateur program, Ryan. I have an amateur team and a pro team. I've got probably 40 fighters in there that are training at various levels and various organizations. And I go in and teach, especially wrestling days on Wednesdays. I'll go in and run the wrestling practices on occasion. Occasionally, one of the individuals will ask me for special help or a situation or a particular opponent that poses some certain problems. Just kind of trying to help them solve those problems. So the biggest thing is I talk to them about recognizing where they're at, what they're doing, their window of opportunity here as a professional athlete to make this kind of money.
Yeah.
And better take care of that. File for a business, make an LLC, start writing off the things you can write off, start putting that money somewhere, because you can't fight forever. And most of us, that's what makes us great fighters, is we have this kind of egocentricity, it'll never happen to me, and that's what makes us good at what we do. But you got to look at the big picture and do this what you can, but take care of it so it carries you down the road.
Are some of them thick-headed when they give you
all
that
of
advice?
them are thick-headed.
Yeah, because listen, I think about myself growing up, and it's that line. It's, my grandfather as a young kid, he was telling me things, and I was going, yeah, and I'm like, why didn't I listen to him when I was 15?
Yeah.
Like, do you find yourself in that position?
Well, and
now?
I think sometimes it's who you're talking to too. Yeah, if my mom was talking to me or my dad or grandpa, then I'd probably roll my eyes and say, okay.
And they're right most of the time, by the way.
Yeah, generally they are, but because that's who it's coming from, you kind of roll your eyes and it doesn't sink in like it should. But then if somebody you admire or respect is saying something similar, then it's like the light bulb goes off. And I guess that's the spot I tend to be in, is, they're excited that I have something to say and something to tell them. And so it maybe sinks in where coming from their coach or somebody that they deal with on a regular basis, it doesn't get in as far.
Was any reservations about your son getting into fighting?
You just read my mind. I was about to ask.
Why don't you just be a banker or something that's going to be a little less intense, or were you all for it?
Well, I was certainly for it because he has a genuine passion for it. I didn't think he was going to do that. Honestly, he could have gone to school and wrestled. And he was like, I don't want to wrestle in college, Dad. I just want to go to school. I'm like, okay, we're going to have to figure out financially how we make that happen, which means you might have to work some, which he was willing to do, and he got through that. And so I didn't, I thought he was kind of over the whole, but he was training and doing Muay Thai and grappling for fun to stay in shape, to kind of cut that freshman 20, all that sort of thing. And then when I hired him away from the bank, because he got a degree in math from Western Washington, to run the gym. I was in the middle of my fight career, still traveling. The acting thing was just starting for me, and so he was there about 4, maybe 5 months. He's like, Dad, I really kind of want to fight. I'm like, oh, all right. So we already kind of come up.
Were you like,
I was okay with it because I saw that passion that he has. A coach or a father, if your kid has a passion for something, that's all you really want. You want him to find the thing that makes him tick. And this seemed to be it. So,
how's he skilled differently than you were? Like looking at you at that age, and now, how are you guys the same, and how are you different?
I think he's a better grappler, a better submission guy. He has more submissions in his career than I had in my whole career. So, I think he focused more on that. He wasn't the bigger guy or the stronger. Neither was I really, especially in the heavyweight division. But And I think we're fortunate that we weren't in the same weight class. You know, he was 155, 170 pounder, somewhere in there, where I was up at heavyweight to light heavyweight. So even though he was getting that flashlight shined on him right from the start and kind of had that target on his back because of the last name, we weren't compared to each other because we were in different weight classes in some ways. So I think that alleviated a little of that scrutiny and pressure maybe.
Yeah.
But I was never worried about him. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, never seen anybody seriously injured. And you know, as a coach, you know, he's diligent, he's smart, he loves this sport. As both a coach and a father, I don't know what more you could ask for, to be honest.
How's the game changed from when you were coming up in MMA? You had your debut, I believe, at 33 years old?
33, almost 34, in 1997, May of 97.
Okay, so how's the game changed between now and then? Because you're color commentating now, so you have to, you know, discuss this, and, you know, there's probably got to be some comparisons.
Well, I'll give you an idea. I mean, my first fight was UFC 13. We held it in Augusta, Georgia. We had it at a civic center, which I think maybe held 2,000 or 3,000 people max, and I think they had given away most of the tickets to get butts in the seat. I don't think anybody knew who was fighting on that card. I had never seen my opponents until we stepped on the scale at the Holiday Inn.
Oh, so you're not like training to take on?
No, I took that on very short notice. It wasn't a lot of footage.
Exactly.
It wasn't a lot of footage back then. It wasn't like you know. And then I kind of got into that mode after that, but. That first fight was certainly like, what did I get myself into? This is crazy. But it's completely changed now. I mean, there's footage. You see guys in amateur fights and how they progressed into the pros and where their strengths and weaknesses are. You can really break it down and study it. Obviously, they're selling out arenas.
Right.
They're cordoning off half of the arena just for the weigh-ins. You know, what I did at the Holiday Inn in Augusta, they're now doing in the arenas. It's changed. We're on the ticker, you know, and I mean, it's completely changed that way. We're a fringe sport that most people thought we were crazy or that somehow we were criminals.
Where were areas early on that you recognized, or maybe a coach or someone told you that, you know, you need to develop, or something that you really had to dive into and you had to improve early on?
Yeah, it was striking for me.
Okay.
I've been wrestling since I was 10. And jiu-jitsu and wrestling are very similar. Jiu-jitsu is wrestling inverted in a lot of ways, but similar mindset, similar tactics and technique. They just flip-flopped it over, which took some getting used to. But I took to that, I think, like a duck to water. It was the striking. I'd never really done a lot of striking, never been in a lot of street fights. I think I trained for a boxing smoker in the Army for a couple of weeks just to get out of running in formation in boots. But that was the extent of my striking experience. So I really needed to learn the boxing, the kickboxing, the Muay Thai. That was one of my favorite styles to train in, was Muay Thai.
Interesting.
I'm curious about, so you clearly put in the work and to train to become a fighter, and it obviously worked out really well. Are you putting the same type of effort to become an actor and also a color commentator?
I think the color commentary thing, I'm doing that as a fighter.
Okay.
I mean, we look through particular eyes. Right. We see things particularly that maybe the average fan doesn't recognize what they're looking at, or what, you know, from position and tactics to who that guy looks. You know, I saw him at weigh-ins. He maybe cut too much. There's a lot of things that we see as fighters that we can shed a light on, and so I kind of focused on it that way from the commentary thing. And I've always been a fairly articulate guy. I got a degree in foreign language and literature. I got used to being in front of the camera a long time ago, so there were a lot of those things that just went away that I think would affect most people. And then, you know, acting is something I absolutely had to work on.
Yeah.
I spent my life as an athlete,
right,
you know, boxing up my emotions, putting them to the side, and staying laser focused on the task at hand. So now they want me to let all this stuff out, and I'm like, this is really weird.
I mean, Expendables was an early on role for you, wasn't it? I mean, was that one?
No, I started in 98, 99 with Cradle to the Grave.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had one line in the movie. Me, Chuck, and Tito all got a shot in that movie. They were looking for authentic cage fighters, and obviously we fit that bill. So, but that was kind of the eye-opener for me. It was like going to Oz and seeing behind the curtain the guy that's making the flames and the smoke happen.
Yeah.
And so I was immediately intrigued with this whole process. I'd been a movie fan since I was a little kid, and now I'm actually getting to see and be on a set and you know, do this stuff. So I was intrigued and interested in it right away. Started taking some lessons, ended up getting an agent. and trying to get better jobs, more interesting jobs. Obviously, Scorpion King 2 was a big boost up with Universal. Expendables 1, 2, and 3, huge
All-star
step
cast,
up. Yeah,
and you
amazing.
were with, like, the
and
elites.
if you want to learn this industry, what better group of guys to be around than Stallone and Schwarzenegger, Willis, Harrison Ford? I mean, gosh, it's an amazing.
What was it like getting that group together? I mean, and I know just certain things you're going to say and you can't say, but you have a lot of superstars in one room, which can go in a very bad way, or you can just gel. I mean, how did you feel when you were in that
felt like
environment?
we gelled from day one.
Right.
I think we knew having an ensemble cast of those guys like that, and Sly is the only guy that could really has the juice to pull all that together. And I think he set the tone. Everybody's looking at him. He, Schwarzenegger and everybody else, including, he just set the tone for the whole thing. It was definitely a pinch me moment for me that first time on set. We're all standing around this well, and I'm like,
sick.
what am I doing here? This is unbelievable.
There's not a bigger group of.
No, they put action movies on the map, and now they're all together. And as somebody that's still cutting their teeth in the action film business, were you trying to get? Were you trying to take any tips from them? Were you talking to them, or were you just kind of pretend like you've been there before and not trying to become? I
was just paying attention.
Got it.
Being attentive. Spend some time in Video Village, especially Sly's that he's directing. He wrote that first one.
Yeah.
Watching how Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis. There's a reason why they've been at the top of that game for as long, because they're absolute professionals. So watching it's the same thing young fighters do when they're watching me train or seeing me in camp. You watch those best guys, and what are they doing? That's what I need to do if I want to be where they're at. So
you also had some recurring roles on Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah,
and,
that was fun.
The Unit on CBS. Now, are there things that are thrown at you where you're like, okay, I don't want to play the tough guy. I want to play something different. And I feel like you've done that on things like Lip Sync Battle and Whose Line Is It Anyway, which Whose Line Is It Anyway, I think, to me, is the one that sticks out the most, because improv is super hard.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that puts you in a really vulnerable spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I'm just curious as to where it is you want to go, and if there's things that are thrown at you and you're like, yeah, I can't do that right now.
No, you're exactly right. I did Dancing with the Stars, Lip Sync Battle, Whose Line. Those are things that I think people did not expect from me, and I want to broaden my horizons. I want to everybody wants to put you in that box, pigeonhole you, if you will. And I'm like, there's more to me than that. Most people don't know I write poetry. Most people don't know I had a degree in foreign language and literature. There's a lot of things. All they know is that guy that walked up in the cage and punched people in the face.
Right.
So developing more fans, a bigger fan base, letting people see those other sides of you. So absolutely in acting, I want to do the same thing. I love the action genre. I've always have. And I can do the physical stuff with my eyes closed. So, but emoting real things, playing genuine characters, and finding a way to relate to a guy like Jason Duclair on Hawaii Five-0. I mean, I had to really kind of do some homework and create a backstory and some way to relate to this nasty character.
Yeah.
He likes to lock people up and watch them burn. I mean, he's not a nice guy.
Right.
But there was a way to play that, and I grew up in Seattle. Ted Bundy was a thing when I was a kid. So here's this charming guy that's luring girls and killing them. I mean, horrible thing. But there was something there that. If I'm trying to portray a guy like that, I can I have some experience there, so I can relate to some of that in some way.
And you want to make it, you want to bring realism to it.
You don't have to tell the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not telling the truth, it's not going to sell.
I got to ask one more question.
Yeah.
It's my last expendable question.
No, please.
I'm going to ask. So this is more of this is what we were talking about earlier. One guy on the set that you would say would give you a run for your money, and one guy that you wouldn't actually want to jump in the ring with, or you think would stump you, who would that be?
Well, I think the guy first, and I did a little sparring with Dolph, and Dolph he's one of the few in the whole set that has a combative sports background in Kyokushin karate. Competed, he was still competing when we were shooting Expendables 2. He was still going out and competing. His knees were bothering him quite a bit, but he's a big, tall guy. Long, rangy. I mean, I better figure out how to get past that range of exchanges and see if he can stop a double leg in a hurry, or he's going to pose some very significant problems for you.
Right.
There may be stitches in your near future. So,
That's awesome. That's
all
fun.
the other guys are great at what they do. I mean, Terry Crews is an amazing athlete, strong as a horse. Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and we all know, and Sly is a huge, avid boxing and fight fan. So, and he knows the technique. He can move. Statham would be the first one to tell you that, and he's been training in jiu-jitsu and learning a lot of stuff, and he's obviously a great Olympic caliber diver. So he has that acrobatic kind of background.
Moves very well, yeah.
But, Jet Li, I ran Jet Li over in Cradle to the Grave. In our one fight scene, I literally mowed him over. He didn't get out of the way. I thought the director was going to lose his mind. I just ran over the star of his movie, but and he's like, "Oh, I'm not a fighter, and I'm a martial artist," and he'd be the first one to tell you that.
I get it. I get it. Awesome, thank you.
I have a question about when you're working a fight with PFL, and you're looking at it from a fighter's perspective. Is it frustrating, or when you're with somebody that doesn't have that, and they say something stupid that you're like, I could see that being really frustrating because you've been there and they haven't?
No, in some ways, especially in the earlier days of MMA, and Mike Goldberg was that guy. He's kind of the straight.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that much about the sport. He isn't grappling. He isn't, technically, he's kind of new. So they ask the questions that you kind of want them to ask because they don't know. And then you can kind of elaborate and explain the situation or the tactic or the technique, and it's educational because there's a whole bunch of other people out there that are watching that TV and they don't know what they're looking at either.
Yeah.
We have an amazing booth with the PFL. I mean, Sean O'Connell was a accomplished, obviously last year's champion, light heavyweight division. Our booth is amazing. Those guys, are great fighters. So I'm sitting next to two guys that absolutely know what they're looking at, and Sean does a great job of teeing us up.
Okay, so someone's there to kind of like drive the shit, move it along, and then you guys.
He knows the Thug Master is going to be great at the striking and all of that, or really good at jiu-jitsu. If it's a wrestling situation or a takedown or clinch work, then he's going to throw that to me, and it really functions well. It works really, really nicely. I'm gonna get Eve Edwards is a great guy and knows the sport as well as anybody. He was one of my favorite fighters to watch. Does this guy even sweat? I mean, he's like so calm and composed out there. I wondered if he even sweat sometimes.
Don's going to yell at me later because I said stupid. It's foolish. Don, yeah.
There's something with my kids early on. I've got a 12-year-old and 11-year-old. When they were like 5 and 4, we'd say stupid. And my wife would say, "No, don't say stupid. It's foolish." So we always make a joke of it.
So yeah, because Don always gives me like the finger wag.
It's okay.
Sorry about that. I want to bring in the wheel, but I did have one quick question. Yeah. I think this is important. So when you get involved in, a league that's taking on a juggernaut like UFC, how are you positioning the league to compete and to kind of take away from some of that, those?
I understand that, and initially when the old owners of the World Series of Fighting approached me about being involved with them, that was the first thing they said. "Oh, we're going to crush the UFC," and I'm like, "Whoa! You guys are barking up the wrong tree. That's not the way to go about this. There's plenty of room on the playing field for all of us, first of all. And if you think you're going to poke the bear like that, it's just a really bad idea.
Right.
So one of the things I loved when the rebranding came around and they asked me to get involved and do color was that wasn't their goal. They knew they had a completely different, unique format. They're going to make their own mark. They want to take care of the fighters really well, give them the opportunity to be a professional athlete and know what their schedule is during the regular season, which is normally not the case as a fighter. You're constantly negotiating and hoping for that next fight, and you don't know where that's going to be. We don't have that problem. Season starts May. If you're doing well and winning, you got 5 fights in the year, and you're going to get through those 5 fights. And it's not about publicity stunts or talking trash. It's about winning. It's about competing and winning. And I love that about the format. Yeah, so it was never about taking on the UFC or shutting them down or doing better than they do. We are different, completely different. Great, we're actually on the same network. We're all on ESPN, so we're happy the UFC's doing what they're doing, and I hope they're happy we're doing what we're doing, and we're making our mark in different ways. And I love that attitude about the organization.
Positive value to the sport is the way
it's not about wanting somebody else to do bad or not.
I guess because when you think of. I always think of like the, Dana White in a sense is kind of, and I don't know him, but kind of in the same, Vince McMahon. They both run these two, big crazy.
a pretty good analogy.
and like they're, from what I know, like I know people that work at WWE. I work there, so I know the way Vince operates, and I've heard stories about the way Dana operates, and it sounds very similar. So it just seems like, is there animosity when people that were with UFC go and do other things? Is there kind of like this, like, does that cause issues?
Issues for who? For Dana White, maybe.
Or yeah, that's what I mean. Like, does Dana White, or does he? I don't know. I guess does he make it difficult, or try to make it difficult, or is he a dick about it? Yeah,
he can.
Yeah,
all those things have happened or can happen. It really just depends.
You just shrug it off.
Every situation is different, and he's running a huge show, and he's the man in charge, and so obviously he's going to want to do it his way, or it's going to be the highway, and that can be difficult to deal with sometimes. Again, I look at the individual athlete, what's best for him, where does he want to go, what's best for his career. He's the one putting his butt on the line.
Right.
I focus on that. The promoters, they have their flavor, their brand, and that's what they're true to. For
They're
me, it's
all
about
going
the
to do
fighters.
what's best for themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's a business.
Right. And at a certain point, you got to look at what you're doing and asking yourself, are you fulfilled? And maybe there's something a little bit different, or a different direction that you're saying to yourself, you know what? UFC was good to me for a certain period of time. Now I want to go do this, and I feel I can add value from a different capacity. So
that's exactly.
So
that's business.
That's accurate.
But it makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you want to know what your year is going to look like and how you can prepare for it and become like a better athlete, a better fighter by honing in on those, rather than, I could see wanting to flock to that and wanting to do that as a fighter.
Well, I feel like that's more of a pure fighting almost. I'm not devaluing what the other guys are doing.
Well, you made a comparison to WWE,
right?
And I think that's absolutely the model that the UFC is using. You look at the guys that are rewarding, the Conor McGregor's, the guys that create those publicity stunts and those talking the most trash and doing, those are the guys that are getting the nod. It's not about the rankings. They're not following that ranking structure. You're going to bump that number 6 guy up if he gets a headline or does something sensational. He's going to get the nod to fight for the title, because at the end of the day, they want to sell pay-per-views. They want to sell tickets. So that's the WWE model.
Yeah, it is. It's whoever.
And that's why one of the reasons why I like working for the PFL, because it's not about any of that.
Right.
It's about going out there and winning fights.
Yeah. So I wanted to, can we bring in our wheel?
I would love
Let's do this. So we have this, our closing segment. We're still coming up with a name for it, but basically we just have a wheel, kind of like a carnival wheel. We spin it. It's really a good way to get to know something about you, something different about you and us. Okay. I've learned things about Don that terrify me. But for the most part, it's pretty easy going. And I actually have, one quick question too was, I didn't know that you were such a Burt Reynolds.
Oh, look at that. You found that online.
I know. I told him to hang on the wall.
Well,
that terrified.
That was kind of a situation of necessity. Horny Mike from Counting Cars, he called me out after Bert died. They were doing burnouts for Bert, and he did this big video and posted it on social media, calling me out, saying, come on, do burnouts for Bert. Well, I was in Colorado. I live on a dirt road. I don't have a car that's going to be doing burnouts on a dirt road. And so I'm like, well, man, I can't do burnouts, and I'm not going to be back till next year from Colorado.
It's phenomenal.
My girlfriend came up with this idea. She's like, well, you could do that, that pose thing that Reynolds did, and you don't have to take your clothes off or anything. I said, well, why the hell?
Why not?
Yeah, you might as well go for it. Jump in. It's funny because I wasn't expecting that when I went onto your Instagram, and it was hilarious. Like, it was just
Where's
so
that
funny.
picture again? We should do a little poll. I want to do a little poll. Who wears the pose better? Bert or Randy? Please vote. reps@muscleandfitness.com.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome. Fantastic.
So what we're going to do is this.
Yes.
At some point, we're going to have a bigger space to where the person is actually going to be able to spin it themselves. But for now, since we don't...
We're in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This used to be my office. So
standard New York apartment, right?
We're going to give this 5 spins. And the things that are on here, sometimes they're pretty easy questions, such as your pet peeves. And other ones we're going to just explain to you as we go along if they get on there. But it's pretty easy.
Okay.
And let's do it.
Go.
Okay, ready?
Take it. Go.
See that? Follow through? Okay, 5 second rule.
5 second rule.
So, okay, this is a game that I've never played. And what it is, I'm going to take a card out of here, a random card.
Okay.
And I'm going to read it. Okay, so you got to name 3 things that you can do in a car other than drive. You got 5 seconds.
Listen to music, have sex, crash.
All right.
That's 5.
That's 5. What would you have said? Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I'll do one with Don too, just to get this going.
Sure.
Let's try it.
I was
We'll
stuck
do-
on
we'll
have
do-
sex. That was
Yeah, I know. That was the one that I was.
the showstopper.
Yeah, I was like, that was it. All right, Don. Name 3 things. Okay, no, I screwed up. Name 3 things you do. Wait, I don't even think you know what that is. It's for younger kids.
Thanks for saying I'm stupid. Foolish.
No, foolish. Okay. Name 3 times fast is better.
What?
Name 3 times fast is better, man.
Fast is better. Wait, what do you mean? Name 3 times? What does that mean?
Like driving, racing.
Oh, I didn't understand the
All
question.
right.
Let's move on.
Okay, that's
Fighting.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. All right. You're up.
I got
Don.
it now. Thank you. Terrible question. Believe me,
Terrible
Daniel.
spin. Talk about a terrible question. Okay.
What was I thinking?
What was I thinking? So, name 1 UFC fight in your career that you regret taking. Like, what were you thinking when you took this fight?
Oh gosh, I don't think I have a moment like that.
No? Okay. So then, is there one fighter that you regret not being able to fight?
Yeah, Fedor.
Okay.
I think he was ranked number 1 at the world, kind of when I was at my peak, and I was ranked number 2, and I'm like, this is the guy I want to fight. If you want to be number 1, you got to
Right.
fight the best guy. And
Never got
never got the that led to later issues with Dana and the UFC, but that was the one fight that never happened that I would have liked to have seen happen.
Okay. Do you?
That's great. Right.
I want to just add one thing. I think your Extreme Couture clothing line is much better than the Affliction stuff that everybody used to wear. That like when we watch on UFC, they're all walking out to the ring with Affliction, and I'm like, what happened? Like, what was that? Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, I'm a big fan of Affliction, and actually they make the Extreme Couture clothing. line,
it's
so
different
we've been
style.
partners for a long time. But
Different
yes,
style.
there was a certain graphic-driven flash to
Yes.
the Affliction line. That,
We should have been in Extreme Couture shirts today. We didn't prepare properly.
I know. That's on me. Next
the
time,
new
I'll
line's
do it. I'll
Howitzer.
do it.
Howitzer clothing.
Howitzer.
Check out Howitzer
All right,
clothing.
Awesome.
cool.
Do it.
Very patriotic.
Here we go.
Better spin than I just had.
Right?
There you go. Trivia.
Trivia.
Oh,
okay.
all right.
Let's see. Who was the first UFC champion ever?
Hoist Gracie.
Yeah. I had a feeling you'd know that one. And there's some that I don't. Okay. This one I was on the fence about, but I'll ask it anyway. Name the winner of season 5 of The Ultimate Fighter.
Season 5. Oh my gosh.
That's tough.
I
was the
know.
season
Well,
after
that's the
run.
thing. That's why I pushed back on it because I was like,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. Nate Diaz.
Oh, that's who it was?
Yeah,
oh, Nate. See, I
2006.
should have known that because he's competing against my boy Gray Maynard in that one.
When you got 2 friends that are fighting, and they're both calling for advice, how do you toe that one?
You be as objective as you can be, and it's not about one guy winning or losing. It's you want them both to go out and have great performances. Somebody's going home unhappy. I came from that wrestling background. I've wrestled some of my best friends for the spot on the team. One of us was going home pissed off.
Right.
I mean, that's just how it is. So
And-
I never got too caught up in all that stuff. It was just the nature of the sport. So you just be as objective as you can.
Are you an anomaly in it though? Like I feel like a lot of people, like as you're talking about compartmentalizing your emotions, a lot of people just let them out. Where that could be, I'm assuming, I'm clearly not a coach here, but dangerous to a fighter because they're not thinking.
Yeah,
clearly?
well, I think some of that is done in a very specific fashion as part of marketing.
Okay.
I don't think there's a lot of that that's genuine.
Okay.
Rarely have I seen 2 guys that genuinely did not like each other.
Okay.
And I think maybe Ken Shamrock and Tito were the 2 guys that really just did not care for each other, and you didn't want them to even be around each other.
Oh wow.
In interviews or anything, because it could get rough.
Yeah.
But that was one of the. I think a lot of it's more fabricated marketing. They're trying to generate heat. I mean, that's the truth.
Okay.
I think most of the guys are pretty good at containing their emotions, staying very focused, and going out and doing what they needed to do.
All right. Last question I had was there any diet or workout trend from the past that you regret taking part in, or that you tried out and found out it was garbage?
I think the big thing for a little while there was this whole creatine phase, and obviously we had a couple of wrestlers that were loading up on creatine, and then they were cutting weight, which is, it's a water-based system, and it ultimately led to a couple guys passing away from they shut their kidneys down, and then once your kidneys go, it's a domino effect for the rest of your organs, and I think the media didn't say it, but I think there was a creatine fact, the product of creatine is creatinine, and that's what shut their kidneys down. Was they were so dehydrated from cutting weight, and they had all this extra creatine on board that it was an issue. That was my opinion. I'm no doctor,
Right.
but that's what I
have
saw.
Noticed, I've worked with a bunch of doctors where I actually saw the combination of creatine and specific athletes who would consume an excessive amount of, say, alcoholic beverages, and I think the combination of them really forced those creatinine levels to elevate, and some kidney, call it distress, not serious damage. But I could see it.
I think we made a big deal out of protein, in this bodybuilding era or lifestyle has kind of fashioned a lot of what we see as fitness, and I don't think it's very accurate sometimes. And
right.
Some of those guys that may look great, this guy Schwarzenegger, I mean, he's a friend, and back in his day he looked amazing, but he probably wasn't the healthiest guy walking around.
No, 100%.
Some of those practices.
And I think Conor McGregor was talking about how much steak he was eating up until a fight. And the argument that I have is that maybe he was consuming so much protein, and he's an athlete. I mean, he really needs to. I'm a carb dominant person. I love to consume a high amount of carbohydrates. And what I'm seeing with these athletes is that they start consuming so much protein that their body starts utilizing that muscle building block, and it starts converting it to an energy source because they don't have enough carbohydrates in their system. So I agree with you on that, but I definitely do see that we put so much value into protein, which is important, but we're not valuing carbohydrates enough.
Balance,
an athlete, you need carbs to perform in
absolutely.
that. It's a problem.
I mean, so how did you deal with weight cuts? That seems like the worst part of like the job.
Yeah,
brutal.
Well,
and there's a right and a wrong way to do anything, and when you get it wrong, you absolutely know it because you feel like crap, and you're not going to recover appropriately, and it's going to affect your performance. So getting that dialed in, getting your body fat tested, getting your specific gravity, your hydration level tested, knowing where you're at. Where your fat-free body is, what's reasonable weight for you to make, and being realistic, having coaching staff and people around you that are going to be realistic. We have this crazy American attitude that more is better in a lot of things. And, oh my gosh, I'm a stud at 170. Imagine what it would be like at 145. I said, no, you're not going to be the same person at 145.
How lean did you get? What was the leanest you think you got yourself?
I think when I cut down to 205, and that first time I went predominantly to a green, high alkaline, plant-based diet. It wasn't, I'll never be a vegan, but it was a lot more towards that. And I wanted that alkalinity to counter all the acidity and things from working out and stress and all that. That was probably the healthiest and the leanest I was, and I was probably around 4.5%.
And you
pretty
felt
lean.
Good?
Huh?
Did you feel good?
I felt great. That was my whole reason for going to that. I was working with Ryan Parsons, who's kind of a guru in nutrition, and he kind of helped me with my diet. I didn't want to get weaker. I knew I wasn't that big as a heavyweight anyway. I walk around at 220. So, I really had to fight to keep my weight on during camps when I was fighting heavyweights. And, I would come down to 215, 212 during camp sometimes, which is easy to make water weight-wise for 205. Yeah. So, but it's a balance.
Yeah.
I'm 6'1", yeah.
Very, very close.
All right, we got 2 more spins, and then we'll close shop.
That was an aggressive spin right there. Let's see what we have. On set.
On set.
Okay. On set. Page 2. Oh, the picture.
What was that? We're hanging that one up.
Yeah.
That's going up on the Wall of Fame.
There's a video that actually goes with that.
We do. We got to put it in the episode. Okay, we got a couple here. What movie franchise would you love to be a part of, and why?
I've been reading for a bunch of these Marvel roles. Everybody loves to see their comic book heroes come to life, literally with the CGI and everything that we're doing now. It's really kind of amazing era in filmmaking. I mean, there's a reason why they're making all the Disney films over in live action now, because they can actually do it and make it look right. And so I think being a part of one of these Marvels. I read for Deadpool 2, for the role, that cyborg role, and it would have been a fun role. I would have really liked to have portrayed that character.
So when you go into these auditions, do you get nervous at all? or is it just
Nobody's
like,
punching me in the face.
Yeah,
it's
I
all
know,
kind of relative to
that's what I was
that.
gonna say. It's also
that literally sets the bar for everything that I do.
It's like 6 years in the Army, getting punched in the face for a profession, and then I guess walking
out in 20,000 people in your board shorts. You're never more vulnerable and exposed than you are in that moment. So
maybe this.
Again,
nobody was punching me in the face. I think I'm going to be okay.
Love it.
Any role that you read for that you were like, I killed it, this is mine, I want this, and it went to somebody else, and it just was a bummer, like a gut punch.
That one.
Deadpool
role was one. That. Yeah, and that was one I felt like I really did well. It was that Robert Rodriguez film recently, something Angel. I read for a role in that, and then they kind of went a whole different direction.
Sin City? Is that the same guy who did Sin City?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
No, that was Zach. Zack Snyder did Sin City. I think Robert Rodriguez was involved in that too, but he also had that double feature that they did. He's an amazing director and guy.
That's very cool.
Don actually trains Ryan Reynolds, so Don, you're gonna have to.
12 years. I was with him this morning. Actually. I'm gonna have to drop that on for Deadpool 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say like let's make this happen.
We make this happen.
Like, come on, like we can bridge.
Not always in his hands. You can't
It's
not always in his hands.
Fair enough.
He'd probably like to think he had that much juice to be able to make those kind of calls.
Any directors that you've worked with that have been memorable, or I'm always curious as to ones that are tyrannical and like want to like cross the line, and you're just like, do you know?
I haven't had that experience. I really enjoyed working with David Mamet. Mm-hmm. Did Red Belt with David Mamet, and that's what ultimately led to those episodes of The Unit.
Nice.
And he was an amazing writer and an amazing director. Stallone. I mean, to work with him.
Yeah.
And he's not a tyrant by any stretch of the imagination, but both those guys are like, they're just words on a page. You can say it the way you need to say it to make it the truth.
Got it.
And I learned a lot from both of those guys working with both of those guys.
So it's not like Tarantino when like it has to be delivered exactly like they're saying feel it, like let the character kind of come to life.
Yeah, well, and although I've been doing this for 20 years now, I still feel like I'm learning every time I go out there. So I want to learn, you know. So tell me how you want me to do it, and let's see if we can figure out how to make that happen. And that's a good learning experience for me. So I'm never going to push back on those sorts of things unless I just absolutely think it's wrong. But
Do you watch what you do? Do you watch your movies and your TV?
Not till they're done.
Yeah.
Your first glimpse is in ADR when you have to do some voiceover stuff because there's always issues with sound, and that's your first chance to kind of see what they're putting together and see the scenes or the film. You never see the whole picture, but then going to the premiere, that's the fun part about the premiere is, you finally get to see the finished product and everything that went into it, and that's what's really cool and really fun. Yeah. But I don't it's weird watching myself.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm on set. I don't like to go and look at the scene because then you get in your own head and now you're not kind of being true to how it feels. And,
yeah. I know Don doesn't like watching himself because I don't think he's watched one episode of this show.
What are you talking about?
On YouTube?
Yeah.
The whole thing?
Not the whole thing.
Kind of. All right, last one.
Little truth to everything.
Already.
Look at you. I thought we were going to get away with it.
All right. Okay, we got this. Oscar speech. So you have just won an Oscar, and you're going to tell us what you won the Oscar for, and you're going to give us a little 15-second speech, either thanking people or just, whatever you want to say. The floor is yours. So we
say 10 or 15. I think it's changing. What do we do?
I don't know, but that's the thing.
It's 15 seconds.
We got to give
15 seconds.
But he needs something. He needs to have something. Like we got to give him a trophy of some sort. You will get the red Spartan helmet.
Red Spartan helmet.
So this is your Oscar, and
I love it.
Just drive whatever.
I'm going to count it down. Ready?
Well, that's a fitting trophy. I like that.
I think
that's
so.
Not bad. Yeah.
3, 2.
Well, thank you very much. I could have never imagined being here. When I set out on this journey, I never expected that I would reach this level, and I can't thank you guys enough. My agent, my acting coach, my manager, you guys have all been amazing and helped me get here. I couldn't have done it without you. Thanks, Mom. And by the way, Epstein didn't kill himself.
All right. So, that's a way to end. That's a way to end strong, right there. I mean, that's the way you end strong. You gotta leave them wanting more, right?
I love it.
Listen, Randy, I want to thank you a ton for coming in. Really, it was a real pleasure to meet you and to speak with you. And I know that where can everybody find the various projects you're doing? Can you let us know where we can?
Social media, whatever.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, and I have a red page, Randy the Natural Couture, both on, and then Randy _Couture on Twitter, XC Natch on Instagram. Yeah, you definitely find me out there, and I try to keep people up to date with what's going on, where I'm headed, and what I'm doing, and all the charity stuff, and all that. So.
And PFL would just be, is it PFL.com?
PFL. Yeah, it's Professional Fighters League.
I was going to say, just Google it. I mean, it'll show up if you just.
And obviously, we're back here at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden for the finale on New Year's Eve, 7 to 11 on ESPN2, and you can go to Ticketmaster to find tickets for that.
Can you mention your charity's name one more time?
VetsandPlayers.org or Extreme Couture GI Foundation.
Very cool. And I have a question about the New Year's Eve show. Is that are fighters going to have to fight twice?
No, that's the finale.
Okay.
They fought twice to get to the finale in the playoffs. So these are the guys that came through that gauntlet.
Man.
And
how
it'll be 6 amazing fights.
I mean, you've been through many fights. Like, did you ever do a 2 fights in one?
A bunch of times, yeah. In the early days, it was more common.
Wow.
And obviously, there aren't a lot of organizations, athletic commissions, that will sanction multiple fights in one night. And, the PFL was smart. The first quarterfinal fight is a 2-round fight, and the semifinal fight is a 3-round fight. So you're still only fighting 5 rounds in one night. It's just you have 2 different opponents. So that's the caveat. So that's kind of how you get around the regulation that, normally on my first UFC, I fought twice that night. And those were 2 20-minute fights, potentially.
That's brutal.
So, I mean, that's a grind. I did that in Japan, too, and fought more than one time in a night.
I don't know. I'm thinking about, like, having to go through that. I guess it's just when you're conditioned for it, or you're mentally ready for it.
Absolutely. And there's strategy involved. And you obviously go out in that first fight and try to do your best to get it over as quickly as possible, but at the same time not sustain damage or anything that's going to affect you if you do win, to transition into the semifinals when it really counts. That's what's getting you into the big money. So.
Man. And I feel like as a fan, you're getting more bang for your buck, because you're going to be able to see more than, more the person, especially if you're going there to see that person. You get to see them more than once, which is
I think that's why this whole regular season playoffs, you kind of get to follow a fighter through this journey in these 5 fights and see who wins the championship, and you get to know them. Whether you're cheering for them or rooting against them, you still kind of get to know these guys, and I really like that. I think there's a reason why there are Saints fans and Giants fans and Seahawk fans, because there's just kind of that aspect. You get to root for somebody through the whole journey.
That's cool.
I love it. All right, so we have at CRAS on Instagram.
At Don Saladino.
Okay, and you can ask us questions, reps@muscleandfitness.com. Randy Couture, definitely one of our favorite guests.
Yeah.
We were both like 2 little kids today when you were coming in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
so hopefully
that.
we didn't screw that up. But thank you again. Thanks for your time. Congratulations on your charity, your career, everything that you've done. It's really, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks again, man.
Thank
you.
Cool.